start to feel I am attached. Somehow I always end up feeling bad. Baby, I am not your dad. It's not all you want from me. I just want your company. Girl, it's obvious elephant in the room, and we're part of it. Don't act so confused. And your love story. Now I'm in the mood. Now you're doing in the bedroom. We play games of love to avoid the depression. We've been here before. And won't be a victim. Why you always in the mood? Talking about acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but trying to play it cool. Baby, now you're playing by your rules. Everything went better with the view. Why you always in the mood? Talking about acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but trying to play it cool. Baby, now you're playing by your rules. Everything went better with the view. So yeah, you're trying to think you love on the regular. When you could be blowing up just like my cellular. I won't ever let a shawty go and set me up. Only thing I need to know is if you're burning enough. I'm talking sick back, kick back, gang slipping 40. You keep playing out another day with your shorty. Mismatch, bitch, that was way before you know me. Got a lot of love, boy, you better save it for me. Games of love to avoid the depression. We've been here before, and I won't be a victim. Why you always in the mood? Talking about acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but trying to play it cool. Baby, now you're playing by your rules. Everything was better with the view. Why you always in the mood? Talking about acting brand new. I ain't trying to tell you what to do, but trying to play it cool. Baby, now you're playing by your rules. Everything was better with the view. Yeah. One thing does happiness like in a diamond ring. Oh, I've been looking, oh, I've been looking for problem. I wage my war on the world inside. Take my gun to the enemy's side. Oh, I've been
Hello. Welcome to the project to create a product management plan framework in Trello. My name is Travis Moses Westphal. I'm a digital product manager with over 15 years of experience building online products and services. I'll be your guide through this project to create your own framework for a product management plan in Trello. In this project, we will look at how to use Trello to structure and prioritize work, keep track of the many moving parts that make up a product plan, and ensure timely communication with your team members. At the end of this project, you will have a framework for product management plan in Trello that looks something like this one. You'll be able to adapt and customize the framework for your specific product and organization's needs. In the process, you'll learn about the purpose and structure of Kanban, how to use the basic features of Trello, as well as creating a product management framework in Trello. You'll also learn how to define a process and determine the rules to manage that product management workflow. And finally, you will use the advanced features of Trello to manage project and product communication with your team members. In the first task, we're going to review some of the basics of Trello. You'll create a new Trello board and create some Trello lists. You'll also learn about how Kanban relates to Trello and is useful for product management. Now, let's get started with a quick overview of Kanban. Trello can be viewed as a digital representation of a physical Kanban board. Kanban is an agile methodology for managing projects and software development workflows. In a physical Kanban board, specific tasks or deliverables are written on index cards or sticky notes. Initially, cards are placed on the far left side of the board, and they represent the work that needs to be done. Teams often sort the work in a priority order with the most immediate or important items at the top of the board. When the team is ready, the work to be done is completely understood, then a card for that work is moved to the next column of the board to indicate that it has moved to the next stage in a workflow. Another important concept from Kanban that we will apply in this project is that team members determine the specific rules for when a task item is ready to be moved from one stage to another. It is important to know when a task is defined well enough that work on it can be started. It is also important to clearly define what it means for a task to be considered ready for another stage, or the criteria that must be met before something can be declared done. Now that you have a basic overview of Kanban, let's look at how those concepts translate to Trello. In the virtual desktop on the left, the Chrome browser should have automatically opened, and the bookmarks and shortcuts to access the Trello login page should be visible. Please take a moment to select the bookmark link to open up the Trello page and enter your login information. Pause the video to log in and then resume when you are ready. Great, now that you're logged in, let's get oriented in Trello. Across the top of the page is the menu that includes access to your home page, a menu of boards that you can access, a search field where you can enter the text that you would find in your cards of boards, an add button to add new items to your Trello boards, information and alerts, and then access to your account information. Down below, there is the main home menu information about your projects and boards. And then in the middle here, the identification of boards that you have visited, your personal boards, or team boards. We're first going to look at creating a new board. There are many ways to do that in Trello, but the most obvious one here in the middle is create a new board. And we're going to select the one under personal boards to get started. A new dialog box appears for creating a new board. And in this case, we're going to give it a title, simply Product X Dashboard. And type that in. Then a little further to the right here, you'll see some little small icons. These are background images that can be selected for your board to make it a little more interesting or simple. I'm going to select a simple background color. And I'm going to determine who is going to be able to view this. And initially, I want this to be a private board. There are options to make the board available to teams or to the public. We're not going to use those at this time, but we will explore teams later in the project. Now that I have selected a background, give it a title, and selected where this will be available, I'm now going to create the board. Great. You should now see your new board, which Trello has pre-populated with 3 lists. One for your to-do list, one for items that are being done currently, and one for completed or done items. For practice purposes, let's go all the way over here to the far right and select the Add Another List option.
Done. Doing.
A text box to create the title of another list. If you recall from discussion about Kanban, the columns in the Kanban board represent stages in a workflow. The 3 stages created here being to do, doing, and done. We can also add a 4th stage here of something that is, let's say, block. Go ahead and type in block, and then select the add list item. And you'll see that that has now created a new list item for workflow stage for block. Great work. You now have your first board with the 4 lists representing 4 different work stages. In the next task, we will look at how we are going to translate the many product management deliverables and tasks Into cards to populate the new Trello board and lists. Welcome back. In the previous task, you reviewed some Trello functions, the principles of the Kanban workflow process, and created your first board with the 4 lists or stages of work. In this task, we'll review some product management principles and review key deliverables common to most product management frameworks. We will then look at how to translate that work into Trello. There are literally dozens of product management schools of thought. Many of them have their own training and certification programs, and there are hundreds of websites, YouTube channels, blogs, and wikis dedicated to product management best practices and services. All of them have a version of the product lifecycle that organizes the critical product management activities and deliverables into distinct phases. Those phases can roughly be broken down into the 3 shown here. Pre-development activities, development activities to include the actual building and testing of a product, and then post-development activities that happen once the product has been built and is ready to go out into the market. For the purpose of this project, we will focus on the deliverables that are common to most product management frameworks and are critical for the initial pre-development phase. I've chosen this initial stage because there are far fewer tools and resources available to support the product managers starting out than there are for other phases. For this project, we're going to work with the following deliverables: a market needs analysis, a competitive analysis, the product's strategic positioning statement, then the business plan, and a product roadmap. These 5 deliverables represent a significant amount of work at the onset of a new product. There are many tasks that must be done to prepare each deliverable. Generally, there's an expected time frame for when that work needs to be done. In addition, the work often requires input from a multitude of stakeholders, reviewers, and approvers. To address each of these issues, we're going to look at more capabilities in Trello, including cards that represent the work to be done, labels to visually tag cards and use for filters and search capabilities. And then later in the next lesson, we'll look at checklists and attachments. And I'm going to switch back over to Trello and open up the Product X dashboard. Now, one of the items that I need to mention before we go too much further is the list of content to be added into the Trello board as we proceed through the upcoming tasks. When you first access your project, in addition to the Chrome window for logging into Trello, you should also find a Chrome window with the Product Management Plan framework that provides a description for each task of what boards we're going to create, what cards we're going to create, and what tasks we're going to create in each one of these sections. So I'll be referring to this as we go along. This is content that you'll be able to copy and paste into Trello rather than trying to type it all out on your own. Okay, let's go to the next step. Recall that in Kanban, the cards or sticky notes describe the work to be done. We will begin by adding cards to our to-do list for each of the deliverables we identify as part of our product management process. On the to-do list column, select the gray text link for Add a Card. And then you're going to start by typing in the title of the first deliverable, and that is our market needs analysis. You type in the title, then select the Add Card button, and that is going to create that card and save it on your to-do list. Now go ahead and refer to the document that I just referenced that has the list of deliverables and tasks for this particular task that we are working on to create our to-do list items, and return when you have completed adding those new cards for each of those 5 deliverables. Great. Here you can see that I have added 5 cards for the 5 product deliverables to our to-do checklist. Take a moment to review that. Let's add 5 cards for the 5 those new cards for each of those 5 deliverables. Great. Here you can see that I have added 5 cards for the 5 product deliverables to our to-do checklist. Take a moment to review that list of deliverables, make sure that yours matches, and then we'll jump over to working with labels. Labels are used as another mechanism in Trello to categorize cards and provide a visual indicator on the card. What I want to do now is create a label for each of the deliverables that we've defined, because tracking all of the work related to our deliverables is going to be critical over time. By labeling the cards that are associated with the different deliverables, it'll allow us to quickly see at a glance where all the work for each of our deliverables is on the board over time. It also provides a mechanism in Trello to filter and search for cards that will be useful once we have a large number of cards for our deliverables. You can set up labels in advance from the board's main menu. So moving all the way to the right side of the screen, there's the Show Menu button at the top right. Go ahead and select that, and then select the More button, and there you'll see the item for labels. Go ahead and select that labels link. Now what we get here initially is a set of editable links that are color-coded as a background. We're going to enter on each one of these one of the deliverables that we've defined on our to-do list. Now, some people have very sophisticated use of color schemes in their selection of labels. For the purpose of this project, I'm not going to be that complicated. So just go ahead and add in your particular deliverable to any one of the labels that you want and create those for all 5. I'll give you a moment to work on that, and I'll enter those in for myself as well. Great, so take a look and confirm that you now have 5 new labels that match up with the deliverables that we defined in our initial to-do list. Once you check that, then we're going to go over to our deliverables again. We're going to apply those labels to each of our cards. To do that, go back to that to-do list again, and you'll see you have a little pencil icon on the far. Moving all the way to the right side of the screen, there's the Show Menu button at the top right. Go ahead and select that, and then select the More button, and there you'll see the item for labels. Go ahead and select that labels link. Now what you get here initially is a set of editable links that are color-coded as a background. We're going to enter on each one of these one of the deliverables that we define on our to-do list. Now, some people have very sophisticated use of color schemes in their selection of labels. For the purpose of this project, I'm not going to be that complicated, so just go ahead and add in your particular deliverable to any one of the labels that you want and create those for all 5. I'll give you a moment to work on that, and I'll enter those in for myself as well. Great, so take a look and confirm that you now have 5 new labels that match up with the deliverables that we defined in our initial to-do list. Once you check that, then we're going to go over
Good.
to our deliverables again. We're going to apply those labels to each of the cards. To do that, go back to that previous again, and you'll see you have a little pencil icon on the far right side of each card. You go ahead and click on that, and you have the option to edit labels. Go ahead and select that Edit Labels link. And if it gives you a list of labels, if you click on one of those labels, you get a little check mark here, and at the same time, that green bar for the green label appears on that item. Once you've selected that, you can then close that labels menu, and go back over to your card and click the Save button, and you now have added that green label for the market needs analysis to that card. Now go ahead and repeat that process for each of the other deliverables that you have cards for. Great, you should now have the labels for each of your product deliverables. Now we're going to take a look at these cards in a little more detail. So go ahead and click on the Market Needs Analysis card to open up the back of the card. So you see here on, starting from the top on the left side, first thing is the in-list indicator. And this, if you select that, pulls up a menu where you can select a location to move the card. This shows us, when you select it, the different lists or stages to where the card can be moved. And then also what order within that list those cards can be positioned. Just to show you that, we're going to move this card this time. We did have the indicator of a label has applied to this card. You have the ability to write a description about this card. We'll also be able to see a record of activity, things done to this card over time. So if you go over here and click on the Show Details button, you'll see that we've got this card was created and added to the to-do list a few moments ago. And that will continue to add as we add new information to this card. Now moving over to the left side of the card, you'll see that there are a couple of categories of actions that can be taken. At the top, there's the Add to Card action that allows you to add some things to it. So for example, members, individuals who can access to this card, labels, which we just did, creating a checklist, which we will look at in the next task, assigning due dates, and adding attachments. We'll be going over those in subsequent lessons. Then below on the actions, we have the ability to move cards, copy cards, create templates, watch the cards, move them to an archive when you're completely finished with them, or share them with others. In this task, you've looked at representing the deliverables as cards on your Trello board and adding simple labels as descriptors to the cards. In the next task, we're going to look at breaking the work for completing the deliverables into small chunks using checklists. And then we'll explore using attachments and links to connect with information both in and out of Trello and build relationships between cards within Trello. And finally, we'll look at assigning due dates to work and strategies for managing schedules. Once you've completed looking at your cards here, go ahead and jump to the next task for this project. Great, welcome back. In our last lesson, we had taken a look at creating cards, creating labels, and adding labels to cards, and started to review some of the features of a card. One of those important features after labels are checklists. We're going to do some work here with checklists, so go ahead and select the checklist button and keeping it. Simple. We're going to call this the market needs checklist on the market needs analysis deliverable. Add that, and you now have a market needs checklist, and it is prepared to add an item immediately. Now, at this point, I'm going to refer again to the documentation that was attached in the Word document, and we are now on task 3. And you see here that it has identified the market needs checklist items. So in this next step, I'm going to have you add each of these bullet points as checklist items on the card for the market needs analysis. So go ahead and pause me at this point, add that information to the card, and then I'll meet you back over when I have added that information as well. Great, you now should have a checklist on your market needs analysis card listing the 5 major.
checklist. तुरंत करिए जब हमारा टारगेट सेगमेंट है estimates to its size. Two. Yeah. Persona.
Tasks that we've identified need to be completed in order to create the market needs analysis deliverable. This seems like a good start, but is this card actually ready to move to an in-progress list? As I look at some of these tasks, some of them seem pretty big and involved. One of the useful features of Trello is the ability to convert a checklist item into its own card. To do so, you move your mouse over an item, and you come over here to the 3 bullets representing additional menu items, and you're going to select the Convert Card option. And once you've selected that, you'll see that that item is no longer on your checklist here. Go ahead and close this card for a moment, and go back over to your list, and you'll see that now you have a new card that is the first step in creating your market needs analysis deliverable. Now, because I want to make sure that this is always associated with that market needs analysis, I am going to go over here, select my checkbox, select the edit labels, and I'm going to add the market needs analysis checklist to it and save that so that visually
Okay.
now know that this green market needs analysis and this green define market segments and sizes are related to one another. So that is one mechanism to, first of all, break out in greater detail the tasks that need to be completed for a deliverable, and then how to visually relate those items to one another. Now go back up to the market needs analysis card and select that, and we're going to continue work to break these checklist items out in more detail as cards. And again, work through that process of selecting the menu, converting that item to a card, and then updating the card with a new label. Go ahead and pause the video, finish that work, and come back when you're done. Great, so welcome back. I hope that went well. You should now have 5 new tasks added to the to-do list for each of the tasks that have to be completed to create your final deliverable for your market analysis. Each of those should have the green label for market analysis to visually connect those items. Now, one of the things that I noticed is that if I do the same thing with each of my other deliverables, break out all of the individual tasks that are required to create them, this list is going to get pretty long. And once I start moving things to other stages in the workflow, they're going to continue to get lost. So how do I make sure that the relationship between the master deliverable and the individual tasks and sub-deliverables is maintained. Another way to do that is by connecting cards. So if you open up one of those cards, click on that, and go to that left menu, you're going to look at the attachments, select attachments, and you see here at the top you have the ability to add many different kinds of attachments. We're going to select the one for Trello. And now you see the list of cards that are available in your board. And we're going to select one of those cards. But I don't see the card I want on this list. So what I can do is go up here to the search and type in, but I don't see the card I want on this list. So what I can do is go up here to the search, select one of those cards, and you see the ability to add many different kinds of attachments. We're going to select the one for
Trello. Okay, now okay.
And now you see the list of cards that are available in your board. And we're going to select one of those cards. I don't see the card I want on this list. So what I can do is go up here to the search and type in the task name for the first, which was to define market
ये अच्छा यहाँ लिखना ही पड़ेगा डिफाइन मार्केट टारगेट
target segment. So as I type that in, the cards and boards that have those keywords in their titles, the text, comes up on my list. So now I'm going to select that item, I'm going to attach, and go back over to the left side of the card. And you'll see that the new section called Trello Attachments is here, and that card for defining market and target segments has been added as an attachment. And then you have the link here called Connect Cards. And what that does is it allows me to relate both of the cards to one another. And I'm going to select relate both cards. And now I have an indicator that this card is linked to another one. And because this is a linked attachment, when I select it, it'll take me from the market needs analysis back over to the defining market cart segments task, and that card already has the market needs analysis card linked to it. Now I'm going to jump back over again to the market needs analysis, and what I would like you to do now is to continue this process of attaching the other 4 cards that are related to this deliverable. Okay, you go to the Add Attachments, select Trello, and then usually, once you have a large number of cards on board, it's easiest to type. In the name of that card to find it and then select it. Go ahead and do that with the other 4 cards, and then join back up with me when you're done. Fantastic. Let's check your work. You should now have under your Trello attachment.
Oh,
5 new cards that are now attached, and each of those cards will indicate that they currently have 1 attachment connected to them, which will be this mark need. Card. The advantage of having these tasks as individual cards rather than checklist items is that they can now be individually assigned and tracked and given due dates. So let's take a look at due dates, since we mentioned that. If you scroll over here to the right-hand menu again, and you see on that side the due date, you select that, and it gives you the ability to assign a due date to an item. And you can then change that due date by selecting it on the calendar or typing it in.
अरे
In the date area. So I'm just going to pick a date in the future for me. Those of you doing this project online could be doing that at any point in the future. So I'll talk a little bit about creating due dates for your items right after we look at setting a reminder of when you want to be notified that the due date is approaching. This is going to depend on the type of task, what kind of notice you want to have. I usually like to have lots of advance notice, so before something is due, we do the day before. I save that, and I go over to my card here, scroll up, and I now see at the top that there is a due date for this deliverable. And I'm going to refer you back to the document with the content information on it. And in that document, I've created a list of suggested due dates for delivery periods for the other items on our list of deliverables. So I'd like you to go back to that document, find those due dates, and add them in for each one of our main deliverables. Great, how did that go? You should now have due dates assigned to all of the deliverables, and for the market analysis tasks that you've created, you should have due dates for each of those as well. if you need a few more moments to finish up adding those dates or anything else, go ahead and take that time, and we will pick this up in the next task. Great, welcome back. In our last lesson, we've taken a look at creating cards, creating labels, adding labels to cards, and started to review some of the features of a card. One of those important features after labels are checklists. We're going to do some work here with checklists, so go ahead and select the checklist button, and keeping this simple, we're going to call this the Market Needs Checklist from the Market Needs Analysis deliverable. Add that, and you now have a Market Needs Checklist. And it is to add each of these bullet points as checklist items. The first step in creating your market needs analysis deliverable. Now, welcome back. You're doing great work. I'll be talking a lot less in this lesson so that you can build. So go ahead and flesh out the framework by adding those subtasks, connecting them to the major deliverables, and then provide them with some due dates. Don't worry too much about the details of the due dates. We just want to have something in there that we can use for the next stage of the process. So go ahead and start working on that, and we'll join up and look at the results when you're done. Welcome back, and congratulations. That's a lot of work. Let's take a look at what you've done. You should now have a long list of to-do items that include the tasks required to complete each of the product management deliverables that we identified at the beginning of the project. Now, in a typical workflow, you will at the start of the project have a lot of to-do list items, and we'll then need to determine what work needs to be started first and what work is ready to be started. So what we're going to take a look at here first is the sorting capabilities in Trello to set up your to-do list to view items by their due date. So you select the menu icon here at the top right of your to-do list, and go over to that menu item. You have the sort by option here. Select that. And here at the bottom, you have the ability to sort the list of tasks by the due date. Also, you can sort by the date that it was created or alphabetically by the name on the card. So start sorting by due date, and now you'll be able to see the sequence in which things are ready to be delivered. Before we start to move items, we're going to talk a little bit about the rules for transitioning work. It is important for your team to know the conditions under which work can be moved to either in progress or eventually to done. And also, it's important to know how many tasks can be in the doing or in progress section at one time. It isn't possible for someone to be working on everything simultaneously, so it's important to know which things are the priority to be worked on. I'm going to go through some suggested rules that you might use and make visible to your team members so that they know when something can be moved into one of the list items or when something can be considered done. One of the things that I've done with my teams is using one of the cards to introduce the rules for moving things into that card. So one of the things I'm going to say here is that no tasks with incomplete dependencies may be added to the doing list. That's one rule. And I can hit that. And another rule that we might add is something like only work that can be completed in the next week. You can choose any time frame that your group is comfortable with. Be included. No more than 3 tasks for a person at one time. That makes this a manageable amount of work that will be in the to-do list at one time, and it will ensure that nobody is overwhelmed and they can keep up. And I will just leave that set of rules as the top card in my list so that everybody is aware of what the expectations are. And then we would also do the same for our rules for done. I'd like you to go ahead and take a moment to decide what your rules for doing might be, or definition of done might be for your tasks. Go ahead and enter those and then come back. Now you have some rules for identifying when something is ready to begin work and when something has been completed. So the next thing I want to look at is moving cards between lists. There are several ways to do that. One is simply dragging and dropping. So I'm going to take that item and say that is ready for work. Now, one of the important things to do when you put something in the doing or in progress column is to indicate who is doing that work. So I'm going to select that card, and over here on members, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose myself as the person assigned to this card. I'll close that. Now I appear here, and when I go back to the board, I can see that icon on the card clearly indicated. And over here on members, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose one. To do when you put something in the doing or in progress column is to indicate who is doing that work. So I'm going to select that card, and over here on members, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose myself as the person assigned to this card. I'll close that. Now I appear here, and when I go back to the board, I can see that icon on the card clearly indicates that this card belongs to me. So now I'm going to fast forward a little bit and assume in this scenario that I have completed my work on this card. So I'm going to open it up, and under the due date, there's a checkbox. I'll select that, and now that changes the status to saying that this work has been completed. I close this card to go back to the list. I can see that the item is green on the date indicating it's been completed, and I should be able to move this over to done. However, when I see the rules for done, I realize that this has not been reviewed by any stakeholders, and management hasn't given their approval. What that indicates is that I need another step in my workflow for reviews and approvals. So what I'm going to do is create a new list for a new step in my workflow for reviews and approvals. So I'd like you to go ahead and do that, and also take the time to move some of the to-do list items into different columns and flesh out your workflows, if needed, to add additional stages in your workflow. For reference, you can look at the sample content document that I provided with the project to see some ideas for additional workflow stages you can consider. Pick up those or create your own. So go ahead and do that, and we'll meet back after you're done. So I hope that went well. You'll notice here that I've added a couple of new stages in my workflow, a ready stage for work that hasn't been signed but is ready for somebody to pick up, and a reviews and approval stage to get that intermediate step before something is declared done. And I've moved around some of the work to assign it to myself. So with that, I'm going to end this task. We've completed additional work with adding cards, creating checklists, linking
क्यों इतना हिल रहा है?
Cards and assign due dates. And we've also looked at the concepts of creating work in progress limits and defining rules for moving cards between the different stages and how to add new stages to our work as we need it. In the next lesson, we'll look at sharing and notification capabilities in Trello. Welcome back once again. You're doing great. You've identified work to be done in to-do lists and tasks of the cards, and creating your lists that show the workflow process and rules that will govern the work to be done. Now, you need to communicate and coordinate with others. In this task, we're going to review some of the many sharing and notification options that are available in Trello, which can be used to keep your teams on the same page. Please note that the sharing and notification features are a challenge to practice because the instruction here is pre-recorded and the learning is done individually. I will demonstrate each feature and give you an opportunity to practice using it on your own. If you don't know anyone with a Trello account that you can practice sharing notifications with, you could create a dummy email and Trello account like I've done. To get started, we'll look at who can access your board and how to add new people. First, we'll review individual members. So, who are members? Members include any individual who has been invited to a board and who has accepted the invitation. To add someone as a member, you need to invite them with a link. At the top of the menu, on the right side, you'll see this link for invite. If you select that, it then brings up an additional menu where you can enter the name or email address of someone you would like to include. And you can type in an email, either a dummy email to just practice, or an actual email, or if you know someone who is using Trello, you can type their name into this to invite them, and then select the green send invitation to have them added to your Trello board. Here at the top, you can now see the individuals who have been included as members of this board. When the recipient of the email clicks on the link provided, that will then confirm their email address and finalize their membership as part of this board. Once you've added a member to a board, you always have the option to change their access permissions to the board. You can view what the member has been doing on your Trello board, and you can also remove them completely from the board. Go ahead and play around with that, and then join me back, and we'll start talking about teams. Okay. Now, another functionality in Trello are teams. A team is a predetermined group of boards and people. And what we're going to look at first is how you create a team. You can create a team either from the main home menu or at the top right corner, you can use the Add or Create menu, select the icon for Create, and then scroll down to the Create a Team link, and like that. Now on the Build Team page, go ahead and enter a team name. I'm going to say a team, the team either from the main home menu or at the top right corner. You can use the Add or Create menu, select the icon for Create, and then scroll down to the Create a Team link and select that. Now on the Build Team page, go ahead and enter a team name. I'm going to say a team to be simple. And then under Choose a Team Type, you can select any type that you want, preferably something that is relevant to your organization, the product you're working on. I'm just going to select Other. And then a team description. Again, this description should be something that is relevant to the members of this board. And again, since this is just for practice, I'm just going to put in a little something, and you go ahead and select the Continue, where you can start to add team members. To add team members, simply enter their email addresses, and for this purpose, you can use either a fake email, or if you know someone who is interested in receiving your team invitation to Trello, you can add those email addresses. Here, just enter at least one email address. It can be fake for now, and then select the Add Team Member to continue. Then you will get a new page with a list of current team members. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you over there. Great, you've now created your first team. You have also invited your first team member. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this. And across the top here, you see a series of tabs for, first of all, boards. Let me start you out with some templates. I'm going to close the templates. Then Team Table is a premium feature we're not going to look at. We're going to look at members. And you see here, there's the access for yourself and the individual that you invited to the team. And here on the right side of the board, The team table is a premium feature we're not going to look at. We're going to look at members. And you see here, there's the access for yourself and the individual that you invited to the team. And here on the right side of the board, you have the link to invite more team members if you want to include additional ones.
Yeah, I look
So now that we have a team, how do you add team members to your board? And we see here the link to create a new board, but not our existing boards. The reason for that is because the current board is set to be private and isn't available in a workspace that can be accessed by the team. So we're going to go back to our boards and then to our Product X dashboard and do some setting changes to.
so I need to create a workspace. this one यहीं से अच्छा इसमें यहीं से ऐड हो गया create view ले ये हो गया ना एक ही बार में ये नया
Is available so that our team can access it. Select that team at the top. On the menu option for visibility, we're going to change it from private to team. So now that's available to teams. And then on the Product X dashboard team, we're going to change the team by selecting from the dropdown to be the A team. And I'm going to leave this, I'm going to uncheck this box to allow team members so that others outside of the team may join as well. So I'm going to change that. Great. Now, if you go back to the home page here, and you now see on the menu option for visibility, we're going to change it from private to team. So now that's available to teams. And then on the Product X dashboard team, we're going to change the team by selecting from the dropdown to be the A team. And I'm going to leave this, I'm going to uncheck this box to allow team members so that others outside of the team may join as well. So I'm going to change that. Great. Now, if you go back to the home page here, and you now see your A team under the team setting, and your team boards now shows the Product X dashboard as being available to the 8th. Perfect. Now let's go back to board and go to our next step in communications. Your A team, change the team by selecting from the dropdown to be the A team. And I'm going to leave this, I'm going to uncheck this box to allow team members so that others outside of the team may join as well. I'm going to change that. Great. Now, if you go back to the home page here, and you now see your A team under the team setting, and your team boards now shows the Product X dashboard.
ये तो बहुत दिख ही रहा है।
It's been available to the A team. Perfect. Now let's go back to board and go to our next step in communications. Now we're going to look at some of the many ways you can communicate with teams and members in Trello. First, I want to control the information I receive and how frequently. I'm going to go to my account properties here underneath the user icon and select that, and go down to settings option. And then on the settings page, you can scroll down to notifications. You can change the frequency of when you receive emails to never, once an hour, or immediately as soon as a change is made on board. I'm going to leave this setting periodically. You can change it to what you feel comfortable with. You can also allow desktop notifications so that instead of waiting for an email to arrive with the information, you will be prompted with a desktop notice from your browser. To do that, you have to allow Trello to have access to the browser notifications, so those will pop up for you. I'm not going to do that at this time, but that's something you can choose to do as well. So those are the areas that you can choose for you as an individual to maintain the frequency of your notification. Now I'm going to jump back to my Product X dashboard and look at the watch capabilities. Watching can be done at a board level. So if you go down here to selecting the card level, when you scroll down to the actions, you can select watch, and that watch then will send you notifications whenever a change is made to that card. Now you can also close that. To each of your lists, you can watch the individual list, and that will alert you whenever there is any change made to any item on that list. And if you look here at the top of the list, you now have a little eyeball icon indicating it is being watched. And then finally, I can go to my board menu. I can select that, and under the more, I can watch the entire board. That will then give me a notification of any change made to anything on the entire Trello board. That covers how I can receive notifications. Now let's look at how I can direct notifications. to others. One way to direct notification to others is to assign them as members of a card. So I select the card, and I select members, and I can now add individuals to this card. Now that they are members, changes to this card, updates will be sent to those members. So they'll be in the loop. Next, I can use, going back to another card, and I scroll down this here, I get to the write a comment section. And there I can use something called a mention. If I use the @ sign, followed by the name or email address, it'll bring up a mention list of the individuals that have that identifier in their account information. And I can indicate this is some message for them. And when I save this, that highlights that that person has been notified, and whatever that message was that I created is sent to them in an email. This can be an interesting tool to use. Go ahead and give that a try before continuing to the next part. Sharing is another way to communicate with team members. The sharing icon is in a couple of places. One of them is on the back of cards. In the right-hand actions menu at the bottom, you can select that share, and you find that there are several ways to share. One, you can simply print something out. It'll provide the contents of the card. You can export all of the data associated with the card to a JSON file. You can also share a link that will take someone directly to this card. That URL can be pasted in an email, added to a message or an HTML page. In the card itself, you can embed that into a web page, and it provides the actual embed code that you can copy and paste into a HTML page. Next is the email for this card feature. This is the email address for this card, so that when someone has the card's email address, they can write their comments that they want to add to a card into an email message. And then when they send that to the card email address, their comments are automatically added to the card. Go ahead and give that a try and see how that goes. With the email card feature, you can contribute to Trello cards and boards even if you're not actively logged into Trello, which provides some additional convenience. That brings us to the end of this task and completes this project. You now know the basic capabilities of Trello and how to use those to create a product management plan. You've applied the principles of a Kanban workflow system to structuring your product management plan. Finally, you've learned about how to share and communicate with others to ensure that everyone is kept up to date on the progress of your product. You can now use this board that you've created, or a copy of it, as a framework to create new products and boards. I wish you the best of luck on your path to mastering product management.